Hey, everybody, welcome to the live stream. It is March. It is National Nutrition Month, and we are inside Mary Free Bed here in Grand Rapids. We are in our cafe, and I've got two great guests with us joining us from our nutrition team, both registered dietitian nutritionists. We've got Laura Ellis joining us. Hi, Laura. And we've got Bethany Flanagan joining us. Thanks for joining. And we are here talking, just raising awareness on what Nutrition Month is and how important it is within rehabilitation. So, Laura, you work on the outpatient side and work with our subacute team. Tell me, like, we are in the cafe in here, and this is something that is for our patients to come down, visitors, and also for our staff. Just kind of paint the picture or where we are in the hospital.
Well, you described it very well. We have, and I'm not sure when it was built, but not just a few years ago, where we really noticed that we needed a place for patients, family members, staff to come and get healthy food, and nourish their bodies, to get through the workday. Everything is homemade here, and we really work on having whole grain items and a good salad bar and lots of vegetables and different items for families and staff to have.
And I find it really interesting. So people, the time that they stay in a rehabilitation hospital can be several weeks. On average, it's like 14 days for our patients. And so by us having our own kitchen and making our own food for our patients, we are able to rotate the menu more often and just give them a little bit more variety and make food that is better for their rehabilitation. And so it was a really great thing when we built that and offered that to our patients. But just setting the stage for that. But now I want to introduce you guys as well too. So, Bethany, you work on the inpatient side. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and why you got in to be a registered nutritionist.
Sure. So I've been a dietitian for about 4.5 years. I've worked here for just over 2 years now. I think originally when I picked nutrition as my college major, it was more of like a trendy thing that I thought, I eat healthy, I love vegetables. But then the more I studied it and more I got into it, I realized that diet and nutrition can make a huge impact on health and recovery, and also just give patients kind of a sense of control over their wellness. So I think that's kind of how I got into it, and the more I get into it, the more passionately I feel about it.
Yeah, that's great. And then Laura, tell me a little bit about how you got involved. And there's an RD, registered dietitian, but there's also a registered dietitian nutritionist, and that's what you guys both are. So tell me about how you got involved.
I've been a dietitian for 20 years, and I come from a family of healthcare workers. So I knew I kind of wanted to head in that direction, but I don't do well with blood. I don't do well with bones. So I knew that being a dietitian was a good way to stay in healthcare and still help people, um, and be part of recovery.
So we are a rehabilitation hospital, and we're also multidisciplinary. So it is physician, psychology, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathology, and nutrition. How does nutrition in your guys' work complement a patient's recovery? And we'll go ahead with you, Bethany, because
Mhm.
you're on that inpatient side.
Yeah, so I work inpatient, of course. And really, nutrition, the way it's going to impact someone can vary depending on what they're going through, what they're going through recovery for. But a lot of our patients have had long hospital stays after a tragic accident or illness, and they're very debilitated. So that takes a toll on your body, after that long in a hospital, either on a feeding tube or just lack of appetite. Your body's at a stressed out state. So people lose a bunch of weight, lose muscle mass, and your swallow can be affected, which of course our speech therapists help with that too. But appetite, diet, and also just losing that weight, um, makes nutrition really important. So we get involved and help with the meal planning or kind of problem solving on how to get their weight back up, managing feeding tubes, the tube feeding regimens. Um, and I would say it's a huge part of recovery is you need food, you need nourishment, you need hydration.
And I found it really interesting as we were developing, like making our own food, that certain patients have different dietary needs when it comes to actually like the size of the food and the how solid it is too. And we have special meals that we make where it's like puree, where it's meant to look like the food, but it's going to be that different base. Like it's just things you never know you need until you have to do it. So and then Laura, you also work on our subacute rehabilitation floor. So these are patients who are maybe a little more weak, they a little less intensive therapy. What's your work like with them up there? Is there usually different dietary needs with that floor?
Well, in the majority is the elderly population. So we know after a certain age, you are just at risk for malnutrition and a lot of muscle loss. So um, it's similar to inpatient, some wound healing, make sure that the food is soft enough. Do they need help opening up their containers? Um, it's really rewarding to help people towards the end of their life to make sure that they can stay once they leave that they stay home and not have to come back to the hospital.
Looking at two of our bigger injuries in patients that we work with, spinal cord injury and brain injury, do those patients, when you first see them on your chart, having to go work with them, what are some of the first things that either of you look at in working with them in nutrition? And either of you can answer this.
I can answer this one. So for spinal cord injury, can they feed themselves? That's a big one. And loss of appetite, depending on, do they still feel hunger? Um, they might have wounds. So, just from being less mobile. So high protein intake, constipation's a big thing, making sure they get enough fluids, enough water. With brain injury, that can also vary. So it could be that their taste is altered or their appetite's altered. They don't feel hungry. They might feel nauseous just from, their brain is injured. Also, sometimes with traumatic brain injury, your metabolism is heightened. So you need a lot more calories, a lot more protein. So those are some of the first things we look at.
How is it being here in this facility and having so many different disciplines? What's it like collaborating with the team? You've talked a lot about speech, but do you guys interact with physicians much? The other part of the team, I know occupational therapy probably helping with some of the feeding themselves, but what's it like collaborating with the different disciplines here?
It's amazing. Yes, we do. We collaborate with speech, with OT, with the physicians, with the nurses. And that is one I've worked at a lot of places over the last 20 years, and the teamwork here at Mary Free Bed is amazing. And we all know that that's what needs to happen for the best interest of the patient. But I would say that we have a very good relationship with all of the staff here, and that's one thing that's very prominent here at Mary Free Bed is that we understand it's a team effort, and I think we do a good job with that.
Do either of you have any success stories of a patient that you worked with that you were because of your work in the nutrition and reaching some milestones that's would be fun to share? Somebody that helped, like, this is why you guys come into work every day.
Uh,
I don't
yeah.
know if I can think of one specific, but I think, well, actually, I probably can. Um, One of my very first patients here at Mary Free, I can remember, was a stroke patient. And when I first went in to talk to her, she couldn't talk to me. She couldn't answer me. She was being fed by a feeding tube. By the time that she left, she was answering my questions. She was eating on her own. It's pretty amazing that your brain can heal and we can play a part in that.
So this is didn't prep on this question, but I didn't think about a stroke patient and the being paralyzed on one side. How does that impact their eating or their speaking or the work that you guys do with them?
So that is where you're going to see things like a pureed diet or a minced and moist diet. They might need thickened liquids, and that is more speech therapy. But then we get involved in kind of problem solving with that patient. Like, you can only eat purees. What would taste good to you? What can we recommend? Different nutritional supplements. Of course, there could be tube feeding involved in the meantime while they're getting stronger. So
Yeah. Well, excellent. Well, thank you for that. Um, and then Laura, for you, we talked about your subacute rehabilitation work that you do, but also on outpatient, you're working with patients, and it's our young kids. What are some of the things you're working with them on the outpatient side?
That's my favorite group. Um, So I'm the dietitian in our early development program, which is 0 to 3. So that's taking care. I take care of people at the end of their life in the subacute and at the beginning of their life in the early development program. So, and that's making sure, especially preemies, um, children with developmental delay get enough nutrition to for brain development, most of all, because when your brain develops, then all the other things follow through. They can't develop their they can't meet their developmental milestones if they're not getting enough nutrition. So and I get to hold babies, so that's just a benefit of it.
Excellent. Well, as we start to wrap up this interview, I want to thank you both for joining and talking about National Nutrition Month, and just wanting to highlight our registered dietitian nutritionists on our team. Bethany, for you, you know, for someone who's thinking, I want to get into this and I want to help others, what would you say to them and maybe thinking like, hey, I want to come join the Mary Free Bed team? Why do you think they would want to come join us?
It's just a great place. Most patients I talk to love their recovery here. Our team is so welcoming, so friendly. I think everyone from the cafe staff to the doctors are very collaborative, welcoming. And for dietitians specifically, it's just a great place.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bethany. Laura, anything else you want to add as we wrap up and why nutrition is so important and we need to think about this?
I You did a good job, Bethany, with answering that question. And it's no, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you guys all for watching this video. It is National Nutrition Month here, and we are celebrating this at Mary Free Bed. If you have any questions you want to ask or reach out or learn more about Mary Free Bed, go to maryfreebed.com. Thank you so much for watching and stay well.